Hey, welcome to Unfiltered and Intentional. Thanks for watching. Now, later, yesterday, all the days that you watch, you tune in, you tell a friend. Thank you always. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Specs, and thank you, Liz, for always contributing with your commentary, your jokes, your intellect. But thank you. Yesterday was 9/11. It's going to be a heavy topic. So you already know it's going to touch some buttons in all different ways. But within saying that, just want to get to the whole intro and like and subscribe with Ty.
Thank you, Kia. Hello, everyone. Once again, thank you for always tuning in. We appreciate all of you, all of your likes, your subscribes. We love to have you guys be in here and have an open conversation. If you are not accustomed to us, we are viewed on 2 different platforms, YouTube and Facebook. So if you go to either platform, just type in Unfiltered and Intentional, like, subscribe, and share. Tell a friend, help us grow, continue to show love because we love you guys.
Yay, thank you. I think that's going to be like the only smile. I mean, there's going to be some smiles during this conversation, but once again, as we know, yesterday was the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And it's crazy because there's been a lot of things that have happened to individuals, mass murders, bombings and such in different various time frames. But in our time frame, right? You know, we could hear like, oh, did you hear about the Indians? Did you hear about Pearl Harbor? We weren't alive then. Mm-hmm. So we know what the history books have taught us. We know what our family, grandparents, and those things. But we were alive. All of us here were alive to see it. Of course, we may have kids that were younger, so they don't remember. But we were there, and it's history. It's living history. And we're able to tell our kids about what we saw, what we experienced. And we don't remember what we ate 2 days ago for breakfast or the snack that we munched on or the argument that we had with our significant other. But we do remember what exactly was happening during the time when 9/11 took place. It's when time stood still. The first plane to hit its target was American Airlines Flight 11. It was flown into the North Tower, the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan, the Lower East Side. I love that. That's my stomping grounds. At 8:46 a.m. Before we go into a little bit more detail and the facts about what happened, I want to ask everybody, and I'll start with you, Ty, Liz, and Specs. What were you doing 20 years ago? 9/11 when it took place? Were you in New York? Were you, what were you doing?
I was in Nyack, working at a dialysis center. And I remember one of my coworkers rushed into the unit and he starts screaming about planes hitting a building. So we're like, what are you talking about? So he's like, it's on the TV. It's on the TV. So I ran out to like the waiting area for, patients waiting to come in and the families, dropping them off. And when I went out and I'm looking at the TV, that's when I was able to see the second plane hit. And like, I don't even want to get emotional. But it is emotional because of, like you said, Kia, I can't remember what I did like 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. But I remember standing in that room and being in that moment and feeling devastated. And I didn't know, were we going to war? Were we being attacked? What's going on? There was so much confusion. We had nurses there. A couple of our nurses had husbands that were firefighters and police officers. I remember at one time that no one could even use the phones to get a hold of
Wow.
anyone. So you didn't know if family members were out there, if they were dead, or if they were alive. And then, throughout the day, you just continued to watch it unfold. And so, like, everybody else, it was very devastating. And I could remember it like it was yesterday.
Mm. And what about you? And can you let the audience know where that is? That and you said Nyack?
Yeah, it's in New York.
New York
It's
State?
yeah, New York State. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Liz?
Whew. Speaking of it being really, really just heavy, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was pregnant. I was very, very pregnant, actually. We had just finished our move from New York. I moved Labor Day weekend, which is the weekend before 9/11. Wow. And the last place I went with my friends, a lot of people that are not New Yorkers don't know or don't realize that the basement of the towers was a mall. A complete mall with a food court, a Strawberry, a WB store. Yeah. Like, I mean, I was like, that was my last stop that I hung out with my friends, was that Strawberry, that WB. That
wow, you was there. Wow.
And like I said, I was pregnant. Adding a layer of difficulty to that, my then fiance was a Marine. So you have to think, the only thing everybody's thinking is we're going to war. I'm thinking I'm pregnant and my guy is about to leave. Am I ever going to see him again? I mean, because in that moment, you just know something really epic is happening. Because we had just moved the weekend before, we were staying in something like a villa hotel type situation while we were closing on the house and a couple of different things. My family was moving down from New York. And I was upstairs because it was a little two-story, like a townhouse type villa thing. And I was upstairs and I could hear my mother screaming into the phone because my cousin called her. And my cousin, who's like the coolest, calmest, most collected woman that you've ever met, is screaming, oh my God, a plane just hit the building. Like, and because she was on her way to work and she worked in that general area. She worked at the hotel in the area. And she's screaming and she's hysterical. And she's telling my mother, turn on the TV, tell her what's going on. She doesn't know. All she knows is that she came out of the subway and she physically saw the plane hit and called my mother. Wow. I was on the phone with her trying to navigate the TV and then calm her down and everything when all communication was shot. And we could not get her back on the phone. So we didn't know how close she was or how far she was. I had other family members that worked in the building. And we didn't know if they were at work yet because it was very early in the morning or where they were. There was no phone communication. We're in freaking Florida, you know what I mean? At a loss. My family, some people are trying to call, some people are getting through, some people are not. The service was shoddy. I was very pregnant. Ultimately, I wound up going to the hospital within those first 24 hours because I was just beside myself. And my blood pressure shot up. At that point, they told me I was very high risk. My blood pressure was through the roof. And literally ordered, the prescription from the doctor was to unplug the TV, which put me into darkness, if you would. And just to put a finer point on it, I was putting all my business out there. I was 18 years old. I was very, very pregnant. And like I said, my soon-to-be husband at the time was a Marine and everything else. And somehow I just found this, guys. I wrote down the minutes from what was happening that day.
Wow.
And this is my handwriting as an 18-year-old. And then kind of like my little, it's not quite a journal entry. It's very, very much what was happening on the news. Like you just knew it was.
Wow.
That's from 20 years ago. That's
what the paper is like that iron thin, old. If anything happens to it, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I can't read it. I haven't brought myself to reading it. I don't even know what I wrote.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow. Yeah. And you know what? And I encourage the audience as well to chime in and let us know where you were, what happened, because we were everywhere, and it affected us. It didn't just happen in New York. There were multiple plane crashes, in the United States at that time frame, and it affected a lot of people in many, many different ways. Specs, what about you? Where were you?
Yeah. Well, I was living in Baltimore at the time, but everybody knows that I'm from DC. I'm DC all day. So what happened was that morning, well, I used to have split custody with my sons. So half the week I had him, half the week the mother had him. So their school was near her house, but I was across town. So every morning I get them ready, feed them, get on the bus, go across town, and take them to school. So 9/11 was no different. So I took them to school. I came back home, so I had some nap time. So I had the TV on, and I fell asleep before I had to go to work. So you hear stuff in the background. So I'm just like, what? So I woke up and I'm in a haze now. By this time, the planes had already hit, so they just showing the loop, and they said the towers in the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh my God, let me call my mother. Let me call my grandmother. Phone's not working. So I was like, all right. So maybe I have some friends in New York that worked at a few labels. I was like, yo, call, nothing. So like dead in the water, I have no idea what's going on. I just see the loop on the TV. I can't call anybody. So then I go to work. So I go to a radio station. Downtown Baltimore is nothing. It's a ghost town. Buses are still running, no cars, nothing. So I go to work, and so now I'm getting more detail. So they tell me what happened, when it happened, blah 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 blah, and they be like, "Specs, ain't nothing happened right now. We just shut everything down. We shut all the stations down. We ain't doing anything." So I went back home, and I was kind of in a lost haze because I see what happened, but I couldn't communicate with anybody. And I don't know if another plane hit in DC, how how everybody felt. And then when I did talk to my grandmother felt it because DC's not that big. And the Pentagon, if you
Yeah.
look at DC used to be a diamond, and Virginia took its land back. But where the Pentagon is would have been southwest DC.
Mm-hmm.
So when that plane hit, it shook DC. So she was like, she heard it, she felt it, and everybody was scared. So it was surreal because you like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it shook me because I was like, what's going on? Like, is this war? Like, because it was, you seen stuff in movies in Hollywood and all that, but when it really happens,
Yeah.
it's surreal. Like, it's like, is this real life? So that's what it reminds me of that, and just feeling like the loss of control. Not that I had control, but it reminded me of how much control I really didn't have, even over my own life.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that too, in reference to how, it kind of made Americans in a general sense just kind of feel like, wait, we are vulnerable. Normally we had that I always say we had that John Wayne complex, like we're America, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody touching us. We're coming through. And boom, this happens. So my story is a little bit different because during that time I was in the military and I was stationed in Oklahoma at the time. And we are an hour behind. Yeah, so it's like 8 something. So it's 7 something there. And my mother calls me on the phone. I'm asleep, and I have Deontay, my son. He's a little baby, and he's in the middle of the bed. And my boyfriend's on the other side. And I remember picking up the phone. I couldn't afford the cell phone. I didn't have the cell phone. I had the landline. So I picked up the cordless landline phone. And I remember my mother's always been kind of into that conspiracy theory. Like, oh my God, something's going to happen. And she's calling me and like, yo, America's under attack. They are bombing, New York. And I'm like, Mom, please. And she was like, no, I'm literally serious. Like, the Twin Tower is on fire. I'm like, okay, whatever. And when I thought about that, I thought about there was an initial bombing of the Twin Towers when I was a little kid.
Right.
I drove a car into the bottom of the Twin Towers. But you heard, being a kid and you hear it and you see some soot on somebody coming out, you're not really understanding the totality. So it's like, okay, people survived. There was a couple of injuries. In my mind as a kid, it wasn't a big deal. Mm-hmm. But at this time, being in my early 20s, I'm like, okay, so she says, if you don't believe me, turn on the TV. So I remember, I don't know what it was, but I remember trying to place the phone back on its charging station, and I fell off the bed. So now I'm even more mad because I roll off the bed, trying to put the phone down. My mother's over here talking some conspiracy theory, and I turn on the TV. And as soon as I turn on the TV at 8:46 a.m., well, it was 7:46 that time. I see at 9:03. I made a mistake. It's the second plane. So I see the smoke from the first one. I have no idea what it is. Somebody could have blew up something, some angry postal worker or whatever. And when I turn the TV on, I see the second plane. So it's 9:03. So 8:03 my time. And a plane is literally going through the tower as I'm watching TV. And I'm like shocked. And I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. And I'm calling. I don't know what to do because I'm on a military. I'm off post actually at this time. And I'm calling my sergeant at the time. And they said they gave me a certain time to be at work. So I have to get everything prepared. And I remember in this whole process, calling my neighbor to bring her over to watch this. Like, am I seeing this? And at this time now, the Pentagon is now on fire. Every single place. And in my mind, my body, I'm shook, I'm stunned. This can't be true. And so I'm on my way to work because they told us to report immediately. And in the process of me coming to on the base, I had to pick up gas. And the line was so long. But I was in hillbilly town at this time. And I remember this hillbilly get out of his car with a shotgun. And he said there will be no Arabs, no blankety blank Habibs. There will be nobody trying to go ahead and get any gas in this line. And having the commotion of seeing that, being from New York, knowing what the World Trade Center is, I remember my mom taking me there many times, knowing family and friends who live and deal in that area, knowing DC. I was in complete shock. And I heard him say terrorists. I heard him say Arabs. I heard him say he cranked his he pumped his shotgun. I was scared. I was literally scared. I was in disbelief. Everybody was panicking. When we got to work at that time, the TVs were on. And you just see everybody. And especially when the towers fell, that was the craziest thing. Because, okay, you see people dying, and that's traumatic within itself. But to try to outrun a sea dust of debris and to see people get swallowed whole, I seen a woman, and it left an impression in my mind. And that actually set me off to even learn how to really start prepping. There was a woman who couldn't outrun the smog, the dust, and she had a baby, and she throws her baby to a man, kind of like a football. So he takes off running with the baby, because she's not able to outrun the smog. And it's like, wow. And that type of situation, we are doing anything. I mean, in real life, do we throw our kids to anybody? But it was something that left an actual imprint on us. Let's go ahead and get some of these comments real quick. And once again, guys, please chime in and let us know where you were just reflecting at this moment.
And I'm sorry, I do have someone that also texts me that's usually tuned in that can't be on right now. So when we get done with these comments.
Sure thing.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening as always. Great evening, kings and queens. We love you. What's up, Kia, Liz, Specs, Ty? You already know Humble Lion. Cash, hey everyone. And Cash says, I was doing construction in Lower Manhattan, but still about 20 blocks away.
Were you able, Cash, to see the commotion in the sky and everything? Because 20 blocks in New York, those are long blocks. They're not short little blocks. Were you still able to see what was going on? Oops. Let's do this.
Earl says, good evening, everyone. Hello. I love seeing our faithful viewers and subscribers. I love it. I was just getting back off leave, unpacking on the ship. everyone was watching it happen in the birthing. 2 days later, we were underway and en route.
Wow, en route
right back around. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. No, it's interesting hearing the stories. Please, before I get into my little comment, I know you said that you had somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Linda Jansen is tuning in. She said, so she was working in Newburgh, and one of her coworkers, who was always goofing off, called her and told her that one of the towers had been hit by a plane. She told him to stop goofing off and to try to get back to work on time for a change. She soon found out he was telling the truth. She felt dumb and was in a state of disbelief, and she was scared.
Wow.
Absolutely. And Cash said, I couldn't see because the buildings are so tall.
Okay. So did you hear, I wonder, Cash, did you hear just through the local radio, the news? Because, you know, during that time, people are stopping and words are spreading around. Okay, he's responding. Let's see.
But every siren in the city was on. The police and fire were jumping on the public bus. Looked like the end of the world.
Wow.
Wow.
It's crazy. Once again, like I was just mentioning, you know, we all knew what we were doing at this time. And it's a level of PTSD that is left imprinted, you know, on us for the rest of our lives, to be able to tell our kids and everything. You know, I was talking to some of the youth earlier this weekend, and when I was talking with them, they were babies. And they're hearing stories, and it's just like a simple story, just like if they was to read it in a textbook, like, okay, Martin Luther King, there was a march on Washington, and they don't know the severity. They don't know how serious, you know, even if you wasn't into politics at that time. You know, I was in my early 20s. Liz, you said you was 18. You know, we all were, it was 20 years ago, so we all were much younger. So even if you wasn't really about the political life, that made you turn on the news that day. That made you say, hey, what's going on? Are we fighting back? What Bush say? What's happening here? I mean, and now you see the youth, they're very, well, and I can't say all, because I've met some wonderful youth that, you know, they're on it. But I would say from what the media shows, they're very disattached, you know, not attached to what the political realm and how this all affects us. So it's just really crazy about, you know, and you don't want them to experience something tragic, but it's crazy how it's left a scar on us. It's literally left
because
go ahead.
It's changed life. Like it's like some kids like Michael Jackson, right? But like if you remember when not Thriller the album, I was telling my son about Michael Jackson before. I said I remember when Michael Jackson was just a regular star. He could still walk through the mall. He was Michael Jackson. He was Michael Jackson until when his album peaked. He did Billie Jean Beat It. His album went up, it peaked, it started to go down. So he said, I want to do Thriller, but I want to do it like this. And his label was like, you crazy. And your album already peaked. No. So he said, all right, I'll pay for it. Got his own director, did it, and changed videos, changed music. And if you remember that, MTV had no black artists and told you why they didn't. And Thriller was so big, they had to play it. And he opened the door for Prince and every other black artist to even get on MTV because Thriller was so big, they couldn't deny it. But certain things in history changed everything. And 9/11 for America, not to compare those two, but it changed how we saw ourselves, how we saw the world, because in the world, things like this happen. But we are America, we big, we bad, nothing like that happens here. And then it did. And when it happened, when you saw it happen in your face, we couldn't go back. So but the kids don't know any difference. That's what it is. They grew up in how it changed. They don't know a difference. See, I know Michael Jackson before he was Michael Jackson. So, and I saw the difference. But my sons they were young. So they don't know a difference of you can walk right through an airport or nobody telling you to take your shoes off.
I'm
or
so
you don't.
mention aspects. No. And we're gonna get to this last comment here. I mean, the comment that just came in, but I wanted to say it's funny you said that because being new in the military, because this is my first time in the military and everything, my first duty station. I remember I went to New York City in November. So sometime in November, I ended up going to New York City. But of course, if 9/11 happened in September, a couple of months later, there's still the smog, the dirt, and you can smell death. Now that area was roped off, but they still would let the trains go. And you can still see the debris. You can still see the pain. I went to a memorial in Oklahoma with the Timothy McVeigh. If you guys are not familiar, he bombed a federal building, and in that building there were daycare, and all the kids died. Everybody basically died. And when you're young, like you mentioned, Liz, 18 years old, things hit differently. And if you're not spiritual, you felt something. So like I said, even if you're not that type of person to be like, oh, I don't believe in God or whatever, you still feel energy. You feel some type of death. You feel something. When I went
you feel a shift. Yeah.
Well, here's the kicker. I'm kicking it back, having jokes, laughing. When I go to the memorial, I'm across the street, but my back is to the memorial. And there's a picture, a statue of Jesus, and his hands are out, and his back is to the memorial. And there's an inscription that says, and then he wept. So I'm looking like, man, this is kind of creepy. And I turn around. As soon as I turn around, you felt death. Like you literally felt pain. Like you like, whoa. And that's the exact same pain that I felt going in the train station right next to the World Trade Center.
But you want to know what? I'm sorry. Out of all that pain, though, I noticed it did bring people together in a different way that I have not personally seen in over 20 years. It wasn't about black or white or religion. And I want to give a big shout out and love to all the heroes, hidden heroes. Like you said earlier, Kia, there was a woman who couldn't outrun the debris and threw her baby to someone else. That was a hero. Those are the things that we were doing. Mm-hmm. We were patching up each other's wounds. We were giving the other person a hug, and we didn't care what church you went to. We didn't care what clothes you were wearing, what music you listened to. We were Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was us against everyone else.
And it's so funny because, and we're going to get to that. That's going to be the end because, we have to take this pain that we have, this impression, this imprint on our lives and do something with it. But it's just so interesting how the smell, the sounds, the stories, the pictures, because now we have the technology so you can fine tune certain things, seeing bodies jump out of an actual burning building, because if the plane went in on the 92nd floor and you're on the 106th floor, they had the phone calls of people calling 911. Hey, I'm stuck. I can't get down. Everything is burning underneath me. What can that 911 operator say instead of, okay, someone's coming in your way, knowing that there's no way. If you are above the fire, there's no way I can get to you. And people rather jump out the window because for self-preservation, you're not going to stand there and get, just gag.
No, because that heat, if you've ever been near a fire and you feel intense heat, it will move you like this. Oh my God, because you only want to get close enough, and that's jet fuel. And then you got other chemicals that's burning. So you can probably smell stuff. You can't breathe, and you got to make a decision because it's survival. You just like, I don't want to. So your brain is at a point of, how do I want to die? That is incredible to have to make that decision of, I'm not going to live. How do I die? Do I die like this or do I die like this? And people had to jump, and that's horrific.
Terrible decision to make. And then we'll go to some of the comments here.
Okay, I was on the G train going to a job interview when we were instructed to get off as MTA suspended all service, no explanations. I tried to walk the rest of the way in a 3-piece suit, heels, walked over a small bridge in Long Island City, Queens. And when I saw the smoke from the towers and a lady frantic screaming that we were under attack, I was to meet with a friend that had a job connect at one of the firms.
Wow.
In the World Trade Towers, and we never got a hold of the lady that was to get us the interview with her hiring manager.
Wow. Wow.
And yes, Ty, everyone was helping each other.
Wow. Wow. There's a lot of stories like that where you were supposed to be going to the towers that day. You missed your flight. They actually said, Michael, since you mentioned Michael Jackson, they said, interesting fact, he was supposed to be in those towers, but he missed his flight. He had an interview, not an interview, but he was doing some type of I guess big deal, with the big businessmen or whatever big wigs do. I don't know what money moguls do, but you're sitting there going, what I want to do, whatever. He was supposed to be in those towers, but he missed his flight. I met a lot of different people who said, one lady, her parents had a dream, and she's on her way to a job interview, and the mother's like, do not go to this place. And it's like, calm down. I'm getting on the train. I'm going to the job interview. This is a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. And I remember the girl telling me that the mother ran to the train station pleading with her daughter, do not go here, because she just felt it. Now, once again, we're not going to go religiously, but this is what she felt. And as a parent, we're all parents. When we get that, how many times our parents had a dream and you can't even go outside for a whole week because she said, I had a dream one of y'all kids is about to get hit by a car and you just stuck there. Wow. Here goes another comment here.
I watched a documentary on Hulu recently and relived those moments. They showed the bodies falling, firefighters preparing to go up from the lobby, and they were literally hearing thugs on the roof. Yeah, because of the bodies that were falling.
Mm-hmm. So we have a different perspective here, but go ahead.
We have it was staged. They robbed off gold.
Well, here's the kicker, and we're going to get to that in 1 second because I want to talk about that real quick.
I couldn't watch it anymore.
So we're going to talk about this comment real quick in reference to it was staged. They robbed all the gold, and the reason why I think it's very important to touch base on that because you hear a lot of different things. Right? You hear that the one plane that crashed in Pennsylvania that was headed to the White House. Wait a second, no plane crashed like that. That wasn't even a big old fire. You hear different things. I want to let everybody know that is listening now. Oops, I see a comment that we skipped. Sorry about that. I want everybody to know that's listening now that regardless of what you feel, you have a document in your hand that you have the proof as to why it took place. The shit still took place. And that is the reason why we're having this conversation. So you can be like, hey, let me tell you, there was a big thing with the aliens. It was this, it was that, all the conspiracies. Right. We're going to talk about that, right? But at the end of the day, how many people died? 3,000 individuals died. We're not going to count those terrorists. And then a total of 7,000 that were affected because they were the cleanup crew. They were this. And then you had a 20-year war that we talked about last year. So many people died. So for me, when it comes to 9/11, I always watch a movie. I always give honor and respect to those people that served. You mentioned it. We will talk about it in reference to the people helping each other, regardless of what your political affiliation was, regardless of what your color was. We were all together that day. Now, once again, we're going to hit that thing about what now? Right. And we're going to have that conversation, and it needs to be had. But when we're talking about memorializing something, when we're talking about an auntie or uncle or sister or whoever died, at the end of the day, everybody that has been alive that watched it, it left an imprint on you. Regardless of who you are, it left the imprint on you. Regardless, it's like it's the government's fault and they knew it about. Because for me, I remember being frustrated, and I was like, wait a second, they grounded all the flights. But the Bin Laden family, how was they able to get up out of America? What's going on there? So we're going to talk about that. So no. I totally wanted to put that out there because I know, we're hearing the stories, we're talking about it, but I know we had messed up on this comment here. I didn't get to read that one.
No, we read that one, Boo.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we read it. I think the other one got,
okay.
Like, us. But I like what you said. Life is not valuable. And then he
he's saying horrible, yeah.
Yeah, and then horrible. But I like what you said, Kia. Again, regardless of what we think happened, who told us why it happened, who was involved, where we're at right now is just giving love and respect, and just revisiting how it affected our lives.
Yeah.
What it did to us. Yeah. Again, like Spec said, now when we go to when we want to go get on a plane.
Thank you for remembering that. Yeah.
It looks totally different for us.
Yeah.
So and before we get to this comment here, I'm glad you mentioned the plane. So the military, I had to get on a flight. I told you I was getting on the flight to New York in November. That's how I ended up seeing that area and having that feeling of death. And I remember there was turbulence. And I remember there the on the loudspeaker, it came up and it said, hey, everybody, make sure you're sitting in your seatbelt. Make sure that, that you're not getting out your seats. And there was an Arabic individual who got up and he had a black bag in his hand. So everybody looking, because at that time, everybody was on 10. Like, we don't know who's who. And the woman said, no, sir, the stewardess. She was like, no, sir, you have to be able to sit down because we have heavy, she's shaking while she's talking. We have heavy turbulence. And he said, no, give me. And he snatched his bag back. And I remember I grabbed him. I literally put my hand on his forearm. I was like, you need to sit down. Because at that time, we on 10. And I remember looking at another black person on the other end. I was like, you got this? Oh, we's going down. United, Flight 93, that they moved 10 minutes faster. I think they would have been able to survive somewhat, maybe one life. Because you hear that one hero say, let's roll. Because the black box was recovered. And you can hear their planning. If you ever seen the movie, you've seen that they planned it out. We're going to take this person out. The doors of the cockpit were not locked in at that time because you could go in and they had somebody to help and fly the plane. And the very last words before that plane crashed was, let's roll. And at that moment, when I grabbed that man's forearm and said, you need to sit down, I was ready like, no, I don't care if I get stabbed. I don't care what you got going on, but you're not taking this. No. And we were on edge. Remember, we was looking at people in lines. The lines are so long. You got to take your socks off. If you had a wig, you had to take your wig off.
Wait a minute. I ain't know nothing about that.
No, because if you have any type of, like
pins or something,
things beeping. And people complain about it today. How many times we're waiting in line, right? And you got to take your belt off. You need to take your shoes. I remember having a necklace and it had a bullet on it. They was like, take that off. I'm like, I can't hear it. No, it's the symbol of something on the plane. Don't you play. And I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? But it happens. Let's go to this comment here.
We have from Denise, I will never forget, my second oldest had colic, and that was my excuse to my boss. However, I had already told him I wasn't supposed to be there, a feeling. I was the one who always set up 7701 in Tower 1 for Tuesday meetings, I remember. Ooh, it's how many stories like that have we heard where people were supposed to be somewhere on that day and something happened that just changed. And because it changed, then they weren't on that flight or they weren't in that building or they didn't take the train to the city.
Yeah.
How did you feel like afterwards, Denise? That's what I'm wondering. Like when you found out what you really missed, because of the baby.
Oh, wait, it does say a little bit more here. I don't think we got to see. Did it cut off?
I remember.
Mm-hmm. Well, wait, it did. Wait, because on this end,
I do. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Can we see it? No, because it stops.
Okay, I can just read it in on my end.
Yeah, can you do that?
Yeah. So it says, I remember crying when my brother Cash thought I was at work and I was trying to find, and he was trying to find me. So yeah,
Ooh.
she thought that she's at work and he's calling, and then no one's knowing because remember the communications were so bad.
Right.
We have, it was too much for me to watch. I watched certain things, but had to turn from the burned bodies and jumping they were showing all weekend. I'm assuming that's in regards to like the Hulu and it.
Yeah, there's a documentary that's on Netflix right now, and
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh wow! Well, it talks about, of course, what happened, and then
Yeah.
it's talking about what happened, and it talks about Afghanistan just at the beginning, from like when the first bombing, how we gave Afghanistan weapons because the Soviet Union was
Yeah.
because so it's like this whole thing, and then of course that lovely old Dick Cheney that he loved to go to war, and that's a whole nother topic, So
Yeah, but war is money. Like war is money. So that's why the conspiracy theories, you start going down that road of how if you start a war or you let a war happen, you can make money off the war, blah 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 blah, which is a thing. But we didn't go through all that right now. But when you go down that road, and I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm just saying, you go down that road, it's a lie.
Man, try having a Muslim name after 9/11.
Yeah, a lot of different people, especially after they wanted to build their mosque and different things, and especially New York, because they had little organizations to shut it down. There was a lot of people who did not want Muslims to move in their community, and actually to this day, because we as Americans, we made movies and we put them as this, they are the terrorists, right? Anytime you hear of a terrorist, we're thinking Muslim.
Hey, so let me jump in there.
Marketing.
With, Afghans, right? So speaking of having a Muslim name, it's funny because my brother's been on the show before. I don't know if you guys remember what he kind of looks like, right? And on the low, I kind of mess with him. I call him a little Pakistani brother because he always looked like the soccer team, like the soccer players. He always looked like them, and he used to wear his hair in a little bit more of a little curly kind of bush thing because we look very different. From 9/11 forward, he keeps a shaved head. We just moved to the south. Ooh. And we were in St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine is fairly racist. I'm going to say it. I don't care who doesn't like it. They just are. It's very southern. And he was still in high school at the time. High school. I think he was in 9th grade, if I'm not mistaken. And they treated him really badly. We don't have a single tie whatsoever in our bloodline that I know of that could trace back that far. We're just a mix, and all of us look completely different. But he got picked on. He had to fight his way home. He didn't want to go to school. So it was just a matter of my family was getting it from all ends. My whole family was in the city. My man was in the military. My brother's getting picked on and beat up at school. Afghans. I know you put that LOL in there, but that's one of those tongue-in-cheek kind of LOL. So yeah.
Wow.
Can we go to? Yeah, thank you. Get out of my head. So this is the continuation. Thank you, Denise, because I had asked the question. She said, "Survivor's remorse is what I felt for years. I was very depressed and had to have therapy."
Wow.
Yeah.
We're definitely sorry. Like I said, these things have laid an impression on us. We've all had somebody that we know. But we have some more time, and I want to transition a little bit. And I just want to transition just because I do it, right? Just because Specs does it. Can you prep for a terrorist attack? And it's interesting because I mentioned to it just a little bit. I said, that's what got me into it. Like, wait a second. Oh my God, you can't outrun no smog, and the woman threw her baby. What do you do? There's so many things we're prepping for. And 9/11 proved that our communication system was shot, right? You had police running downstairs while the fire department is running upstairs, but you're both first responders and no one's crossing channels to find out that the building's unstable and this and this.
Right.
And we're just so woo.
Well, see,
go ahead.
Well, see, 9/11 showed that we didn't talk to each other. So police, fire department, all of them didn't talk to each other. So and that was one of the big holes they saw was like, wait, what just happened? And it wasn't that their communications were down. They didn't talk anyway. So when that happened, there was so much confusion. Who's in the building? I don't know. You don't know what's going on. How many firefighters? I don't know. So that was that. Now, when you said the prepping thing, some things happen and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. That's why you have stuff like a get home bag, because things happen. Sometimes shit just happens and you're like, oh my God. But with that, when people are panicking and running, what do I have? Can I shelter in place? Because sometimes it's not good to run. Sometimes you need to find a place to stay and chill there. But you can't because you need to eat or it's cold outside. That's why you have a get home bag. So that's what that's for, just in case. Like when you're pregnant and you about to go, you know you're about to go soon. You just don't know when. So you have a bag because you don't wait till your water breaks to say, okay, what do I need for the hospital? Let me pack now. No, you pack everything before. So because I've had 3 kids, but like the first 2, like the second one was funny how my wife walked past me. I ran past her. They kind of tried to find her, and she was like, "Antoine." I was like, "What?" Oh, and then we went to the hospital. So, but she had her bag. You wanted. So think of it like that. You want to have something because in these times, as 9/11 was, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. 9/11. The terrible thing now is that's Tuesday. We are so used to that kind of carnage right now that people don't even care. 9/11 brought us together as one country. I'm not black, you're not white, we're Americans, let's do this. Now, no. At this point, where we were then was idealist, where we should have been, and what we are now is where we are now, and we are not even anywhere close to that. That's why when you prep, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, and I know Ty has something to say too. Go ahead, Ty, and then I'll say what I.
Well, on a bigger picture, not in regards to prepping individually, if we're caught in the midst of a terrorist attack. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, audience and co-host, but I think I remember watching something where they said that because we had already been hit by water and we had already been hit somewhere else, the last place that we could be attacked would be by air. So they had been in conversation about certain things, and still, again, go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to say, I know that especially in our community, unfortunately, we have this code of don't snitch and these things. We're not talking about little rah-rah up the street and what he's doing and these things. We're talking about on this type of platform. When these terrorists went in to go get licenses to fly a plane, the people, the instructors, the academic, counselors should have said, wait, you want to learn how to fly the plane but not land the plane? Now, where they do that at? Now, what country we talking about? We're going to do those things. Now, here, I'm sorry to interrupt Specs, but even though if you had somebody say that, because you always run into that one crazy person, right? You had masses of people training how to fly but not land, because it was going to be a multitude of attacks, not just these couple incidents here in the northeastern area. It was going to be everywhere, right? They were trying to hit us home everywhere. If you have a group of 10 people trying to learn how to fly and don't want to take the other course, I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Were you going to call somebody? Some of those people were even on the actual terrorist watch list.
Okay.
Yes, they were.
Okay, but here's the thing. You're going by what you know now then, right? So at that time, rich Middle Eastern people were damn near white, right? So they didn't watch them. People didn't. You had money. As long as you weren't black, you were fine. So if Tyrone wanted to fly a plane and was like, I don't need to land because I don't need to, then they'd have called the police on him.
Yeah, you're right.
But Mohammed, they was like, oh, Mohammed got money? Shit, he could buy the plane. Go ahead, Mohammed. So you gotta understand the mentality of people at that time. So now we like this, you should have did this. No, because they didn't, because Middle Eastern at that time, you knew they were going to tip you well.
Mhm.
and they had money.
That's
Mhm.
true.
So
Let's
you,
get some
so they were trying to say that afterwards, like you should have known. And as society at that time, that's what was the comedian talking about how niggas got a break because Middle Easterns became the new niggas. So everybody was like, "Oh no, you all right? We mad at them now," and we were like, "Sure, cool." So we got to understand the culture at the time was that,
That's
It
true.
was,
that, that
yeah.
it wasn't about that until 9/11. Then everybody was like, "You." So they weren't looking at us anymore or stopping us or frisking us. They were stopping them. What's your name again?
Yeah.
So Tyrone, oh no, you good, you good. Mohammed, hey Mohammed, come here for a second. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
so
mean,
that
I'll take it a step further. I'm with Specs, right? We can look at it now and say, well, what do you mean they didn't want to learn how to land?
Mhm.
Not for nothing. People from certain areas are going to expect the unexpected a little bit more than other people are. You know what I mean? And so if you live in a very Pollyanna, suburban white picket fence neighborhood, when you see the weird guy walking down the street, you're like, oh, maybe he needs help, right? A New Yorker's like, hell nah, stay away from him.
right,
Move to the
Right.
neighborhood
Right.
side.
right,
Yeah, it's a different reaction, right? They did not learn how to fly those planes and not land them in the metropolitan area where people are going to be a little more with it, right? And I mean, I'm not saying that if you in Podunk, Alabama, that you're any slower than anybody else, but you are a lot more sheltered. What's the worst thing that anybody could do with a plane? Like, you know what I mean? The worst thing is if you're going to crash, you're going to die. But who in there? I mean, particularly, incidentally, they learned how to fly in St. Augustine. That's twice in one night, right?
In Florida.
I'm telling you, that place it's about as homely, as quiet as, I mean, nobody in their right minds. If you were that person, they would have looked at you the way you thought your mother was calling you that day, Kia, right? It's just like, well, why would these people want to? And oh, come on, that's your racist auntie side coming out, or something like
right.
that. If anybody did have any questions, I promise you the people around them probably shut them down because that sounds just so foreign, especially when you live somewhere so Pollyanna. So yeah, I
Right.
expect some of you. It's
Yeah, because you got to think about culture. This is American. For one thing, nobody's going to do anything like that in America because we're in America. One, and then you got rich people want to fly a plane.
right.
So
We have you can prep for the unpredictable. Could we prep for COVID-19?
I
No
did.
one's willing to invest in things that aren't guaranteed to happen.
Well, and you know what? And I do understand. I mean, like you just mentioned, Liz, nobody knew, right? I mean, even no one would ever assume that atrocity that a person would take an actual plane, maybe a little tiny baby copter plane, but not a full blown, a Boeing 757 plane or whatever, and do that. But we know now, so hopefully we're prepared differently.
Even and sorry, just to put this on hold real quick, but even outside of prepping, I mean, think of the long-term damage that was done to all the people that worked down at Ground Zero, where it burned for over a year. And they said the air quality was good. And then people ended up dying of cancer, and there was no help for that. So if we even want to talk about prepping for after the disaster, when you're part of the cleanup, how do we put things in place to make sure medically and financially that those people are okay?
well, here's the thing. The government will never tell you how bad shit is. They'll tell you shit is bad, but never how bad shit is. Let's take COVID right now, right? So we're seeing January numbers in August and September. Now, people move like this. Summertime, we all outside. We do shit outside. When it gets colder, we go inside. That's why you saw the peak of COVID from Thanksgiving to New Year's, right? Because everybody's inside and we congregate inside. So we see numbers like that outside. COVID is so awful that people are getting sick and dying from being outside around people. So what they don't want to tell you is how bad it is going to get. And if, let's say, everybody's not vaccinated, because everybody doesn't want to get vaccinated for whatever reason, and it mutates, the new mutation is new to your body. So you have antibodies on that first one. You don't have antibodies on the new one. So somebody could be the planet killer. You got to understand this. This thing's mutating so fast that you could be the person that says,
Well,
okay, this one will kill everybody. So and I'm saying if they know this, they won't tell us. So
Right.
know that. Just go by what history does. They won't tell you how bad stuff is. Once they say, "Oh, this is kind of bad," do this. It's this bad.
The facts are the government has to have a level of control at the end of the day.
Right. And I understand that.
Yeah.
So read between the lines. If they're saying it's like this and it's bad, no, it's this. Prep for this. Because if they're telling you this, it's this bad. Because they can't tell you this because people will lose their shit. Oh my God, I'm gonna take all the toilet paper. I ain't going outside. I ain't working no more. So they can't have that. They need you to work. We need you to work. Make that money because I need to make my trillions. So you need to work.
I mentioned it one podcast that we had, and I said if the aliens attacked, right?
You waiting to do that show, ain't you?
Yeah, right.
So E.T. I was saying, right?
But wait a second though. When Orson Welles had made the War of the Worlds, it was a radio broadcast. Families were killing their own families so they wouldn't be abducted and aliens taking over.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have extremists. We have extremist Muslims. We have extremist Christians. We have extremist whatever. They're not getting my family. They said the government at that time was like, we cannot air this stuff. We can't put that out there because guess what? There will be mass hysteria. So yes, people out there, you can't prep for everything, but you should have at least the bare essentials. When you're going into a building, always know your exits. Always know where the fire space, the stairs is. You know, always
pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah,
always act like somebody wants to. Okay, so act like somebody wants to punch you in your face. Somebody wants to kill you. Somebody wants to rape you. Right? Those three things. Those are your filters. Always think that. Then use that as a filter. How can I leave out of here? How can I protect myself? How can I get away? Those are your. Hold up, did that freeze? Right. So those are your filters. Okay. I froze for a second, but see, those are your filters. If you use those for a situation, you're always on the swivel. So you're always like, okay. When you become too comfortable, that's the thing. You miss stuff.
That's the thing. We can't live in a bubble, right? We cannot just not go out the house and just never do anything. Like, kind of looking through the glass. But at the same time, I know when I go out with Liz, I'm always facing the opposite of the door. I always have to be able to see with, that area. So if I'm on the side, I'm here. If, so she's over here, but I'm not, I can't do it. And that's just me. I just can't because I always see my surroundings.
But you want
to have that filter.
You had people like we just read in the comment, they were going for a job interview. That's what your mind was focused on, going to a job interview.
Yeah.
She said, 3-piece suit, high heels. She probably in like the DKNY or something like that.
But Alistair made a thing. There's things that you just cannot, right? You're walking down the street, you hear about an automobile just jumped up on the curb and just, ran into a building. You had no idea that an automobile was going to jump up on the curb while you're walking.
Right. Now, certain things you can't prepare for, right? And those are things you just cannot prepare for. Certain things you can. Like when I I used to train a lot when I was like in my teenage years, like before teenage years, and in my 20s. So mentally training, I will walk into a room, doesn't matter who it is, it's my boys or whoever. I size every person up in that room. And what if they attack me? How would I defend myself? And then I would run through scenarios all the time as I was talking to them. Guys be bigger than me. I'm like, this man, what's up, man? We're talking, but I can tell you, I can hit you in your throat, hit you right inside your knee, hit you right in your groin.
Time out. The crazy thing about that is I don't per se size people up like, hey, if I had to fight you per se. That was only if I went out to a club environment. What I would actually do is if I'm in an environment with a group of people, besides looking at your exit points, I'm also looking like, wait a second, now who would I be able to climb on top of if I had to push this person out? Like, wait, okay. She's gonna slow me the fuck down. I'm about to mush her in her face.
But no, you want to know what? You're laughing about it, and I hope my dad is not watching this show or he doesn't watch this show, but when I think about prepping and I'm thinking about if we had to leave our house, my dad's not making it far. He's not running. He's not going through all the extras. He has to get left. Like, so when you're talking about if something really went down and you're talking about saving lives, it's, it's
first law of preservation is self. In order for you to do anything, you have to be able to take care of yourself first, right? And then, of course, if you have the kids and stuff, you plan accordingly. But you do have to do what you have to do. Let's read some comments. They're coming in.
Yeah, they are. You can't prep for we did that one. We did that one, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Dust masks, goggles, whistle, mini flashlight, bandana, respirator, a get home bag, and
so that's for a person that's actually working in a building or something like that. I would always suggest, if you are going to bring those items to your office, have it in your little drawer and stuff, don't make it something where you're telling all your coworkers, hey guys, I have my flashlight, whistle, bandana, because guess what? When people are panicking, they're going for your flashlight, whistle.
Right. You might be making them suspicious and weary of you. That's what I'm thinking. Like, but why does he have ropes, bandana?
Right.
That guy.
And once again, right now, it's so funny, and I'm never gonna put names and stuff out there. Well, once in a blue moon, I put a name out there, but this time I'm not gonna put a name out there. I went and bought a very, very cute. It's literally like the size of this little sharpener here, and it's a stun gun. And you would have thought, but it looks like, maybe, I don't know, something that you can fit on your key, something really, really dainty. And it has like this little blinding light, and it will zap your ass. And I'm showing an individual, somebody that I know, like, man, look at the little discreet little thing that I have. It's so compact. No one would ever know. You can put it in your bra. Like, I'm really, really, really excited about it. And it was like, oh, that's your protection? And they went into their purse and they had a whole handgun. I was like, wait, what? now here's the kicker. While you're over here with this, they had a handgun. If you have a handgun and you're trained and you have a concealed license, please, by all means, keep it to yourself once again, because you never know, somebody can grab that purse as well. So here goes some stuff.
Leave it to the Florida man.
Yeah, right.
What does this have to do with like the training? And hindsight is 2020.
Of course it is.
They train at Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, which is a well-known school to learn how to fly. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that one.
Always Florida. It's always Florida. They learn Gwinnett County is Georgia.
I think Gwinnett County is in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
And then so they basically train in many different places. Shaking my head. Event 201. And America don't like paying its bills.
That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole other podcast right there.
That's a whole nother one.
Yeah. And then that's exactly my point, Ty. The lady prepped for a job interview. You can't prep for the unknown. You literally don't know. Sounds good.
Yeah, no. I mean, and it's funny because I was being joked at because I had a fire in my house, and with all the stuff that I had, I did not have a fire extinguisher.
Oh my God.
Everybody was laughing at me like, wait a minute, you're over here prepping with this and this, and you don't got a fire extinguisher? I mean, now I have two.
But yeah.
But how often do fires happen, right?
Often.
Yeah, there's a whole department that deals with that.
Did you have a smoke detector in the home?
And I never heard that shit go off like, there is a fire, please exit now. I'm like, oh
We're gonna bring you back down.
But it's good that you have one now. So that's good.
Right? Right?
It's good that you have one now. I just leave it like that. Like, you know, it was good. It was good that the fire, you had a slight fire that didn't do a lot of damage to remind you to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I should have
Leah
this.
should have
Yeah.
never said that. She should have never. Wait a minute. That's like saying I had a fire and not only did I not have the fire, just
What is that orange and red thing over there? What is that? Oh, that's a fire. Okay. So
let me get my whistle and stun gun to put it out. Yeah.
Are we really talking about?
Sorry. We're going to bring it back. So we have Earl K. Gotta be like the equalizer, size people up. True. Peppers don't talk about nothing. Boom. Boom, boom, boom.
You move in silence. That's the best thing is one of the things you learn about growing up street is you don't tell people about your shit. You're just like, okay.
Wait a minute. He said, how you don't have your own personal fire truck? You ain't even lying. Didn't they just buy 2 new mansions with 5 underground pools and 3 Maserati?
So they left out the fire truck and the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I have my own personal fire truck because you live in your house where your wife has a pallet of water. That's something to me with your pallet of water.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord. Okay.
Oh, we got jokes.
Oh, man, not the fire truck.
I mean,
another bottle of water. Yeah, that's
yeah, she got all the water there.
All
And just to bring it back and kind of recap, you know, in reference to just the acts of kindness. You know, you mentioned it earlier, you know, and just to wrap up the conversation, that day that's been, you know, embedded in our hearts and our minds, and maybe it affected people we know personally. That day brought us all together. And I, like I said, I don't care what your religion was, your political beliefs, your gender, whatever you was, everybody was helping everybody. I've never heard not one story of a person not helping. I had there was a police officer doing an interview, and they said that they were severely hurt by the crumbling. Well, they were one of the last officers to get saved, and he was in Bellevue Hospital, and that's a very popular high demand hospital that's close in the vicinity. And they said they reported 2 weeks of no injuries associated with assaults and rapes and theft and these things. So literally we can do it, guys. It's in us. It's in us to be kind. It's in us to just take 5 minutes out of our time and help one another. It takes more energy to be mean to people and to insult or hurt and to do all these different things. I know we all have our moments, right? We wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Something has agitated us. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take anything to be kind. Anything, like a moment, you know. So before, let's just read this last comment here, and then Ty, Liz, and Specs, if you guys want to just talk about, you know, any acts of kindness that you have done, you know, maybe on that day or just in a general sense that you just try to do personally, just always taking that extra step. Let me just read this last comment here.
Agreed. It felt great to be an American, U.S. Now we are at war with each other just to be contrary.
Yeah. Is there something that you do, Ty, on a regular basis, or especially on this day, memorializing in this moment, you know, where you're just giving back? Like, is there something that stood out to you? Like, man, this is the time where I did this.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, for me, it's, again, I seen a lot of love on that day. And then how they were affected even 20 years later with their health, trying to help other people, volunteering and stuff. But for me, It's really just about saying hello, letting people know that they are noticed and they are valued, and I speak about this openly. Me personally, I know I've been struggling lately, and that, just walking outside and having someone smile at me, or again, just letting me know I see you, I'm not invisible and I'm valuable. Just doing things like that, telling people like, you look good today, I love your hair or the shoe,
You're
just
building confidence. Yeah.
yeah, trying to really be tuned in to other people outside of the chaos that we're going through every day, because we're each going through our own personal chaos, along with everything else that's going on in the world, going on in the world. But like, just tune in with each other. Remember that there are other people, and regardless of what we're going through, just say hello. Just notice people, because you never know, that frown, you yelling at that person, you could be that last resort to them wanting to do something drastic. So that's what always sticks in my head.
Yeah. What about you, Liz and Specs?
Well, I don't do anything regular. This 9/11, I woke up, saw some programs, brought everything back, and I felt kind of melancholy. So I'm working and I'm driving. My job, I drive. So I'm driving my car, and there's an intersection. It's a huge intersection in Pennsylvania. It's like 3 lanes, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 4 lanes, four. So I'm about to get this light. I hear a boom, kind of in front of me, but to the right, and I saw a shoe fly. I was like, "Whoa!" So I
Wow.
jumped. So I jumped out of the line and pulled around in front of everybody while I was still a red light. Motorcyclist and a car collided. So now his motorcycle is in the grill of the car. He's on the ground. The guy driving the car is in a daze because the glass is shattered. So he obviously hit the glass and he's just sitting there. So what I did was I drove my car in between the guy that was laying down and the rest of traffic, so nobody would try to go around and might hit him.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I
Yeah.
had to get out and start directing traffic to say, go ahead, go around. While people started running in. And finally, a doctor finally came, and then they called the police. And I'm still blocking traffic. Still tell people go around, go this way. And then when the police came, he said, "Were you in an accident?" I said, "No, I was blocking traffic." And the police officer was like, "Oh my God, thank you." I was like, "No problem." "Hey, do you need to leave?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And he stopped traffic for me to leave.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Look at
that
you
was
being a hero.
no. But that was my 9/11, and I'm still feeling melancholy, and I wanted to cry because I wanted to do more for him. I just didn't have any expertise because there was there was a doctor and a nurse there that I couldn't do more than them. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, let me just,
You could
you know.
always assist. Learning CPR and stuff like that is always good.
Oh yeah, but when you get hit, he's breathing. He's breathing, but he's on his side, so you don't want to move anybody. But
Yeah. But
if
what
his
you did was
airway was,
stopping the trap, blocking the traffic,
Mhm.
redirecting the traffic. Because some people are like, I don't care, and they might have even
Yep.
run somebody over or
Mhm.
whatever have you. So that was definitely awesome. Not putting yourself in your stuff that you had to decide just to take the extra time out to help that individual. What about you, Liz?
Um, you know what? I actually appreciate this segment because I think I'm nice all year long. You know what I mean? I try. It's weird because 9/11, that day, that weekend, whatever, every year I go very, very into myself. I very nearly called out of the podcast tonight. If I'm being honest with you, I don't watch the news. I don't tune in. I've never watched any of the movies. I saw one movie by accident called Remember Me. It was just because it had the Robert Pattinson guy in it, and I did not know that it was tied to 9/11 until literally the end, and then I was a mess. I tune out completely, and just hearing that was a really good question, Kia, in terms of if I'm engaged with everybody all year, why this? I just can't, but I will be better about it. I will try moving forward to be better about it. I just haven't been able to for the last 20 years, which is lame.
that's okay.
It's no worries. I mean, for myself, on 9/11, of course, today is the 12th. Saturday was 9/11. There's nothing in particular that I do on that day. I always try to do something for somebody. I'm always the person that is rooting for you. I am always the person when you make it. When I make it, you make it. You know, and it brings tears to my eyes when I see people succeed. Something I've always worked in social services. If I wasn't in corporate America, like either or. And for me, you know, I'm the type of person that will just purge my closet. It could be brand new. It could be not worn. I could have just bought it. It's going back to the Goodwill. It's going over here, you know, doing those type of things. But something that I just do just out of the ordinary. Sometimes I'll just do random acts of kindness and just pay for someone's groceries. I don't think I even told my husband one time, like, sometimes I'll just do that. So if I'm in the line and there's a person here, you know, I'll go ahead and let them skip. And then I'll say, hey, let me swipe. I'll do that. You know, it's not something I do every day. I wish I could do more times, but you know, I got
So
bills.
you mean after buying your fire truck?
Yeah, right. But no, I'll go ahead and just do that extra. I've always been the type of person to just give back. You know, I remember when the Boston bombings took place, and you see people running.
Yep.
You know, even though we have that instinct to run, and we do run, I'm always the person who run back and help as well. You know, so as long as I can secure my own and my safety, now let me go ahead and go back and help. So no, I've always wanted to do that. I get very emotional, you know, when Katrina took place, and there are so many different types of things. I'm always trying to rescue and save somebody. You know, and sometimes my husband has to put a kibosh on it because sometimes you could do too much.
Yeah.
Last little tidbit story. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I seen a man beating on a woman. She had her infant in her hand, and she's trying to protect the infant while she's going down. And I'm opening the door, like we're in this fight together. And I remember this time, I think he was my fiance at the time. He's telling me to chill. Actually, we were just dating. He was telling me to chill, like, don't open the door. You don't know, call the police from behind. And for me, I couldn't. I had to bring her in the house. I had to get her and that baby away from him. And I understood why he said, let it go, because guess what? Once it all settles and she wants that man back, or the family find out that the baby in the house, they're going to be knocking.
They turn on you, anything.
Which they did. But at the end of the day, my natural instinct is to do it because I know what it's like to be in those situations where you're just needing help and nobody will reach out. But if you can do that extra step of kindness, surround yourself with people with love, it's always a good thing. Go ahead, Ty.
Just really, really quick, because I'm listening to Liz, and I'm watching Liz, and we know this is live and it's unfiltered and intentional, and everyone knows I love my Liz. I love her, love her, love her. Liz, I just want to say this. As you stated that, you know, you really don't do much on that day and you want to do more. I think you showing up here today and being here for the people is doing a lot, because you are struggling and you struggled to even be here, and you were very open about that, and you sit here with love in your heart and still giving to people that are going through things. So I want to thank you, even if they can't thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, here's the
That was sweet. Yeah.
comment.
Then we have I as well, Liz. Tune out when the memorial approaches, because although I'm thankful I'm alive, I might not be here today had I not been running late for the interview. I feel for my job connect and her fam. Yeah, survivor's remorse is real. As I never was able to reach her after the occurrence. And survivor's remorse is so very, very real. Love y'all. We love you.
Yeah, thank you so much. What shirt do you have on, Liz?
Oh wow. All right. So this was I had done a Biggie collection, and this was a part of the Biggie collection, but I always think of my towers, and so it was all a dream, and the LL in all is a towers. funny. I can't even bring myself to putting it on my website because I can't profit from, set occurrences. But if anybody does want one, just reach out to me directly and we can make it happen. That's growninghonestconcepts.com, of course. And if I'm going to say one last thing before we leave the air tonight, the thing I think I missed the most from the last 20 years is just patriotism. You know what I mean? We don't have a single freaking thing anymore that's a kumbaya moment. Not one thing. Not health, not a tax, not war, not peace, not nothing. And if we could find it somehow, some way, if we could just agree on one thing, can it be just I just miss loving the country. I miss loving America and being American, and all of us being Americans. We've always had our issues internal. But when it comes to facing the world, we used to be able to get it together. So that's my parting word is can we try? Can I pay for that? So,
praying for you, and thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, thanks everybody for sharing your testimonials, what you're going through, what you reflect on this time frame. Make sure, that you like and subscribe to the page. You can tell your friends and everybody. It's something that we do. This was a touching moment. Like I said, I take 9/11 very seriously because just like that, all those thousands of people are gone and you just had no clue it was going to hit in the way it happened. It was something that left an imprint on our minds. Once again, I think Cash mentioned it, America paying their debts and their dues and all types of other stuff, and Dick Cheney and political. That's a whole nother conversation that we would love to get into because I love talking politics, but that's a whole nother thing. That's another time and place for that. I respect the speech that President Bush had yesterday when he talked about terrorism, but he talked about domestic terrorism as well.
Yep.
And he put that on the map. And that's something that raises an eyebrow because when we think about terrorism, we're talking about international, but we're not talking about homegrown terrorists here that will do just as much damage. As you can clearly see, they was going to tear that place up in the Capitol on January the 6th. But we love you guys. We're wrapping it up. Next week, we're going to talk to you then, too, about some good topics. But bye.